In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can get started with FinalBot Hold'em. First, we'll take a quick look at FinalBot itself as well as the competition lifecycle. Then we'll jump into the rules for FinalBot Hold'em as well as its API and the test clients that are available. To start off with, FinalBot is a competitive software developer community, and it's open to all developers, whether you're a professional, a student, or just a hobbyist developer. It's available on Windows as well as other operating systems like Linux, Unix, Mac, and more, thanks to Mono. And FinalBot focuses primarily on gaming competitions. And you'll find that each competition is designed to support a very wide variety of skills and experience levels. It's very easy to get started with competitions, and the competitions can scale to be incredibly competitive based on who gets involved. To get started with pretty much any competition on FinalBot, you'll want to register a FinalBot account. Once you register that account, you can use it for all the competitions that are available. After you're registered, you can download the SDK for the competition that you want to compete in. After you download the SDK, you can use the tools you want to develop your bot, and then submit your bot for competition. Once your bot's submitted into the system, it'll automatically compete in regular tournaments, and then you can go back and review the matchup logs to be able to analyze performance and determine how you want to improve your bot. Once you've done that, you can resubmit your bot and it'll continue to compete. Now, FinalBot Hold'em is our implementation of Texas Hold'em. We've taken the rules that are available primarily from Wikipedia, and we've built a tournament that can use all the bots that are registered in order to find out at any given tournament who's the best competing bot and do a pretty good job of ranking them. Our ranking tournaments use all the bots that are registered in the system, and they all perform individually, so there's no teams. We currently run 2 daily ranking tournaments. There's a general tournament that will include 2 to 8 bots per matchup, and it will always try to include as many bots as possible but keep the tournament evenly loaded. And we also have a heads-up tournament that's simply one-on-one hold'em poker. In each matchup, only one bot moves forward, and all the other bots that don't win a given matchup will place in ties with all the bots that are finishing at the same place at the same tournament level, regardless of their performance within the bot. So for example, if your bot finishes second in the second round matchups, it'll place the same as all the other second round second place finishers. Now, Texas Hold'em has a variety of rules, and many of those rules can be customized from implementation to implementation. The house rules for Texas Hold'em primarily rely on the published rules on Wikipedia. As with many things in the world, Wikipedia is not necessarily the official word of truth, but it's the best source that we found that was freely available to work with and seemed to have a very accurate representation of the rules that we wanted to run in this given competition. Now, we've done a few bits of customization, which are very common for Hold'em. In our case, we do not use ante or straddle. You'll find that a lot of the rules that we've customized in the places where there are levers that you can adjust the competitive nature of the game, we've opted for something that's more bot-friendly as opposed to rules that are designed to make it more human-friendly. So, where possible, we've tried to make the competition easier to program against so you can focus more on your competitive strategy as opposed to having to worry about the complexities of the underlying rules. So things like antes and straddles are not available. The small blind begins at 1 chip, and the big blind will always be double the small blind. And we actually double the small blind every 10 hands. So you'll start off with that 1 chip small blind in hand 1, and when you get to hand 11 it becomes 2 chips, and by hand 20 and at hand 21 it becomes 4 chips, 8 at hand 31, and so on. But that also means that at hand 31 the big blind is now 16 chips. And as you go on throughout the competition, you will reach a certain critical point at which there is a final hand, depending on the number of bots involved. Every bot starts with 100 chips, and so in the game with, or rather in a matchup with 8 different bots, you have 800 chips to work with. And so there is a finite limit as to how far that game can go before everyone is all in by the end of the opening round. Now, there's no upper limit on raises. As for lower limits, the opening and flop raises must be at least the big blind, and turn and river raises must be at least double the big blind. Now, to make this easier, we actually provide that information to your bot at runtime every time it's asked to place a bet. So you don't have to worry about writing code to calculate that, as it's always available. But there is definitely an art to knowing if you want to raise how much you want to raise, because you do have the option of raising really as much as you want at any point. And this is one of those rules that's really designed more for the developer than it would be designed for a human playing in these games. Another important thing to note is that the rules do not change when only two bots remain. So in some circumstances, and when humans are playing, Hold'em would have a different impact when you only have two bots involved, whether it's heads up or whether it's at the end of a larger tournament. In the case of Hold'em, simply the bot that is the left to the dealer button, the virtual dealer button, is the small blind, the big blind is to their left, and then it is up the next bet is up to the original small blind poster, and so on. Now, while we go through some of the rules here, it's important to note that the rules do change. It's possible that the customizations that we have in place may be changed before this video or during the lifetime of this video being published, or at any point during the competition. And we will always do our best to publish that information and make it available via the blog and potentially via newsletters. But it's critical to note that the implementation is always the final say on rules. And this applies not only to cases where the rules have changed, but as an unfortunate reality of software, in the event of a bug, the bugs do apply to the games fairly. So we can't go back and rerun tournaments or rerun matchups based on there being bugs in the software. In the event of a bug in the software that is to the advantage of a player, it is really recommended that you raise this bug on the forums or directly to our support at FinalBot alias, because we do want the competitions to be as fair as possible, and we will put in every effort to make them work as consistently and fairly to everyone. Unfortunately, you are not allowed to cheat in our terms and conditions, so if you do knowingly move forward with a bug that you found, please let us know so we can go fix it. Once you download the Hold'em SDK, there's really a few core components that you're going to care about. If you want to build your own bot from scratch, what you'll do is you will write your CLI assembly, whether you're using .NET or Mono, and you need to reference the finalbot.hold'em.common.dll assembly. This contains all the common information about our Hold'em game, which is really the data that's passed between the engine and your bot when it's competing. You can also optionally reference the FinalBot Hold'em Bots DLL, which provides some debug information for use in the test client, and we'll get into that at a future date. There are also two test clients available, one for .NET and one for Mono. These are to make life a lot easier when you're testing your bots. You can also write your own test harnesses, or you can use tools such as Visual Studio's automated testing tools or NUnit or anything you'd like to write your own tests. But if you want a nice convenient GUI to work with, whether it's human players or matching up different bots against each other, we provide test clients to make that easier. We also provide starter bot projects in a variety of languages, and we're definitely happy to add more if anyone from the community wants to contribute some languages or some starter code. These are very simple projects, and when we get into the API in a second, you'll see how simple the core API is in itself. But they are in C#, VB, C++, F#, and we provide a J# starter bot project which uses Visual J# 2005. The core framework that's required for the Hold'em SDK to implement a bot is actually the .NET Framework 2.0 or any implementation of CLI 2.0, so it could be under Mono as well. And we opted for 2.0 because the future versions do offer neat features, but they're not necessary for the interfaces that we require. So really anything that runs on the .NET Framework 2.0 in our production environment is something that you can build a bot in. We also provide a few sample bots to just take a look at potential behavior. 3 of them are very straightforward hard-coded bots, and one of them has a little bit of bot logic inside of it. And those are offered in C#, but they are pretty straightforward. And really in any language you're working with, you'll be able to understand how those work. And we should also note that the SDK bits are subject to change. So we'll always post on the FinalBot blog some release notes around each SDK release. We will try to freeze the API the best we can, and only in cases where it makes a significant difference will we ever change that core API after it's been released.